Hello everybody and welcome to Parks Bros. It's Drew here, and today for Listmas in July, the 5th day of Listmas in July, we are focusing on our top 10 themed coasters. Thanks to Theme Park Checklist for sponsoring this video, available now on the App Store. That's right, this top 10 list for Listmas in July is going to be focused on my top 10 themed coasters. Now honestly, this is probably the toughest list I have put out to date, and it took me forever to find a potential list. And honestly, I could switch this all around except for a couple of them. But one thing I did want to mention before we get into this is that this list is technically based off of things during the ride experience. So theming during the actual coaster itself, not in the queue, not in the station, but during the entire ride. So with that all said, let's head to number 10. Coming in at this spot, we have kind of a surprise, I'm sure, just like many things on this list, and that is Maverick at Cedar Point. This ride is brilliant all around and even has some nice theming. Is it the best theming in the world? No, of course not, but it has some beautiful rock work, an amazing setting, and incredible lighting effects and sound. There are plenty of points during this ride experience where it looks like you're going to be bouncing from rock to rock or hopping over a lake. It is just so cool in that setting, at least if you can pay attention to it with everything going on during the ride. And of course, in that launch inside the tunnel, you have some cool lighting effects with some sound that makes it seem like you are at the front of an oncoming train. It's just a cool ride all around, and the theming just elevates it to one of the best I've ever been on. Up next, we're going to head to California's Great America for Railblazer, the second RMC single rail Raptor coaster. And I put this on this list because of rockwork again, and you're going to see that being a common theme. But rockwork really does a great job of immersing you into that theme. Heck, you might even be able to call this list top 10 rockworks in parks, but hey, I digress. Railblazer does an awesome job of putting you in that setting of the Northern California trails that it's trying to emulate. And while yes, you're not completely surrounded by all of this theming the entire time during the ride, when you're low to the ground, it feels like you're jumping over those rocks and taking your ATV on some of the toughest courses out there. Next up is one of the newer rides that I've been on in this list, and that is Manta at SeaWorld Orlando, the B&M flying coaster. Now, this ride really makes you feel the rush and ride the ray because a lot of it's rock work and plant life that just surrounds this entire ride. Now, obviously, everyone can think of that iconic moment above the water where there's water effects and then there's a waterfall with rock work, and it's just an absolutely gorgeous sight. Now, believe it or not, on ride itself, you can also experience a lot of that same type of theming throughout different parts of the layout, which is just fantastic. Now, obviously, it's not like putting you underwater, but it does a great job of making you feel like you're potentially a manta ray swimming at high speeds in the tropical regions of the world. And man, is it just so freaking pretty. Next up might be a little bit of a shock for some, but this is Apocalypse the ride at Six Flags Magic Mountain. That's right, Apocalypse has made it on this list, and I think it definitely deserves it. During the ride, there are plenty of tunnels that you're going to dive in and out of with some really cool effects within them. Different lighting and even fire effects during certain times during Fright Fest really makes this ride experience that much better. Another plus to the theming on this ride, though, is the fact that you will be traversing around the queue space, which is already pretty heavily themed. So it just adds into that theme even more, even if it's in the queue, because you're riding right alongside it. And I gotta give big props to this coaster for being one of the most under the radar rides at the park, and also showcasing one of the best themed rides and queues within the entire park. Next up, we're going to be going to Universal Studios Florida for not the last time in this list, that is for sure, but this is for Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts. Now, don't get me wrong, this queue is one of the best I have ever been through, but the ride itself, when you take out a lot of those screen elements, is what I would call a notch below the queue itself. But don't get me wrong, it does a phenomenal job of putting you into Gringotts Bank with plenty of other cool set pieces that move above, below, and on your sides all at the same time. There's of course a lot of lighting and sound effects everywhere, and there's plenty of surprises in store that I will never forget. Now we're going to move right next door in the park to Revenge of the Mummy, the Florida version. Now, of course, this indoor roller coaster does suffer a lot, I would say, in the fact that there is a lot of blank space during the ride and a lot of darkness where you can't see anything. That's a big reason why I didn't put Space Mountain on this list, because theming to me is not blank space, it's filling the space. Now, Mummy does a phenomenal job of that, especially in the opening scenes of this ride. It puts you in a time and place and drags you through the mud in it. It is just awesome. With animatronics, plenty of fire effects, and amazing lighting and sound, it is just so immersive before it throws you into that crazy experience of the roller coaster itself, with a lot of cool theming peppered in throughout. And of course, lots of surprises. Definitely a ride you gotta hit when you get to Universal. Well, now we're going to be hopping a little ways over to Islands of Adventure. Yes, more Universal coasters, I know, but this is specifically for Jurassic World VelociCoaster. And I gotta say, yes, the second half of this ride isn't crazily well themed, but man, the first half of this ride, that rockwork, foliage, the waterfalls, the raptors, everything in that paddock is brilliant. And honestly, I would argue without a lot of this theming, it would be put down a couple notches, at least in my view, but that theming just brings that first section to its height, its best possible version of itself. And boy, oh boy, does diving through those rocks, running away from the raptors, just feel so heightened just because of a lot of that theming, especially during night with some of its beautiful lighting. Well, next up, we're going to be heading literally a little ways away to Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure at Islands of Adventure. This ride kind of knocked my socks off, just a little bit. Of course, just like most of the Universal rides I've talked about, there are plenty of surprises in store, so I won't spoil those, but man, this ride does a fantastic job of making it feel like you're flying on a magical motorbike throughout the Forbidden Forest. There are plenty of animatronics, amazing lighting, and of course on-ride audio throughout the entire experience. And of course that's all without mentioning there are different seating positions, one in a sidecar and one on top of the motorcycle itself, which just adds to that theming even more. It is definitely a type of storytelling that I've never witnessed on a coaster before that, but I will say I cannot wait to see that more and more at other parks across the world. Well, now we're heading back to California to Disneyland for the Matterhorn Bobsleds. Yes, this ride does a fantastic job of putting you into the Matterhorn itself. From the chain lift and onward, you are diving in and out of caves within this mighty mountain while dodging some really crazy looking animatronics, seeing some really cool set pieces, and of course, experiencing a lot of amazing lighting at night and some cool noise work as well. Literally every inch of this roller coaster is covered in incredible rock work and even ice work at times that puts you perfectly into the lair of the abominable snowman, Harold. You could argue that there's not as much theming as some other rides on this list, but almost everywhere you look is filled with rock work and more. Here we go. Number 1, it's gotta be Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at the Disneyland Resort. Oh my goodness, this is another level of theming on a roller coaster. Literally every part of this ride is completely smothered in beautiful rock work, even small animatronics, and a lot, and I mean a lot, of different set pieces that put you perfectly into Rainbow Ridge. There are totally points of this roller coaster that I forget I am in Disneyland in California, and I immediately think, oh, I've been transported back to the 1800s on a ghost train. It is just so well done, and it holds up after many decades of service. Of course, I could be talking about the lighting, the sound, and the amazing scenery changes from one room to the next. But if I end up doing that, I'll be here for a good long while, and I'm hoping to get this list out very quickly, so I think I'll end it there. But Big Thunder, just immaculate. So there you have it, all 10 of my top 10 themed roller coasters listed off. Now, of course, there's a lot of discrepancies and whatnot, and I could change it up quite a bit, honestly. But if you guys want to let me know what your guys' list would look like, please let me know down in the comments below, of course. And let me know what you're dressing up as for Halloween. As you can see, I'm dressing up as Nightwing this year, which is a lot of fun. And of course, if you haven't yet, make sure to check out all the links down in the description, including everything from our Discord to our Twitch to our Instagram and TikTok. And of course, make sure to check out our awesome pin that is only available for a limited time and is selling out pretty quick. So check out our pin. It's such a cool thing to have. And of course, it's the best way of supporting us here at Parks Bros. So of course, until the next list, which is going to be the top 10 shocking moments on coasters, we'll see you on the next ride.